Hello, welcome to this educational program by the Association of Foreign Correspondents in the United States. I'm Patrícia Vasconcellos, a board member of the association, White House correspondent for SBT, Brazilian TV network. On today's program, 2 years of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. What is the impact on civil society? Today here with us, Mykola Kuleba. He's the CEO of Save Ukraine, an NGO established to protect children and families affected by the war. Mykola is here in Washington D.C. with children and teenagers that were kidnapped by Russian forces and rescued. Mykola, thank you so much for being here with us, talking to us about this important topic and with our community of foreign journalists based here in the U.S. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation.
So before we start talking about your mission here in the U.S. with those youths, could you give us some background of the work of the NGO when it was established 10 years ago? It was a different scenario.
I'm 25 years in child protection, and I started in Ukraine after Soviet Union collapsed, working with the street children, combat human trafficking and sexual exploitation. And for the last 7 years, I've been presidential commissioner with the President Zelensky, President Poroshenko. I was responsible for child protection in my country, and after war started, and we have to remember that this war started 10 years ago, and I've been commissioner, and I founded that time Save Ukraine NGO, which combats human trafficking and evacuated families and children from combat zone from the eastern Ukraine. But 2 years ago, when full-scale invasion happened, we immediately started our evacuations, and we asked our partners to help us. They provide us support with the cars, armored cars, buses, ambulances, and we evacuated more than 100,000 children and women from the hotspots. But after we recognized that many kids have been kidnapped, because after liberating territories which was occupied by Russians, we found many families whom children have been kidnapped, and we try to understand how it happened. Many children have been kidnapped by militaries to the camps, orphanages, from the orphanages, from families, and it is very different stories. And we immediately started our rescue missions to return these kids to Ukraine.
Let's go back 2 years ago on 24th of February when the Russian invasion started. What do you remember from that day, and what this event interfered and changed in the work of the NGO?
You know, it changed everything, because it changed every child's and family life, because 60% of children experience displacement. 60% of all children's population. Many of them have been forced to the Russian territories, forcibly transferred to Russian territories. Many families were fleeing the war abroad, and we have 6 million of people who've been displaced. 6 million.
6 million.
Yeah, and they've been displaced to European countries, all over the world, even to Brazil. You can find thousands of Ukrainians now because they were fleeing the war to Brazil. I know a lot of friends who are there, and we work with some church groups in Brazil to bring families there, and many Ukrainians stay there.
According to the Ukrainian government, more than 19,000 children were taken by the Russian forces. Does this NGO, do you have the same number? What are the statistics that you have regarding children and teenagers taken by the Russian forces?
Yeah, it is official numbers, more than 19,000 children who've been kidnapped or forcibly transferred to Russia on occupied territories. but these numbers only like official.
Could be higher.
Yeah, it's government who could government identify as a kidnap, but we can find a lot of kids who've been forcibly transferred and kidnapped, whom parents were killed, for example. We can find information about these families, about these kids. And that's why it's so important for us to return these kids and to find more information about them. Because our strategy, Save Ukraine strategy, is to find child. We have a hotline, and many kids reporting us through the hotline. They found us in social media, and we provide advertisement. It's a first. Second, it's return, which is very dangerous because Russians block any returns of any child, and they interrogating even parents who want to reach these kids.
So from those 19,000 children and teenagers that were kidnapped, how many were rescued by Save Ukraine?
By Save Ukraine, it's almost 250. But all kids who've been returned, it's close half 1,000.
And
kids.
how did this NGO reach those children?
You know,
How to
it's
get information?
It's different ways. Sometimes relatives came to us or called to us and say, "Oh, I know my child is there in Russia, in that facility or camp." Sometimes children calling us from Russia. They can reach us, through the social media. They can send us messages. I'm in that facility. Please help me. Can you find my relatives, my parents?
Are they under
disappeared.
adoption, or which information can you provide?
Different information. The biggest number of kids have been sent to summer camps. It's in Russia or Crimea. They will forced from their families and sent there. And many kids have been just kidnapped from orphanages. Thousands of orphans have been kidnapped from facilities. And from the foster families. They've been forcibly transferred with foster families. And many of them now live in orphanages in Russia or in Russian families. We return one boy with his sister. She's here. She can tell you this story that it's 11 years old boy have been taken from Ukrainian territory under occupation first to the Russian camp, summer camp, and then to Russian family. And she tried to help him to escape, but Russia trying to block this.
How is of course each story, I imagine, is a completely different trajectory in order to reach these people, but how those rescue missions work and which support the NGO could give to families, fathers, mothers, parents that literally decide to go to the other country and search and rescue their kids?
You know, for us, it's so important to find this child because many children are hidden. Many orphans are hidden there, and we have no any information. If we are able to find this information, we immediately connect with the child. We try to find relatives. We prepare all documents for this travel to this child, and we take this child to Ukraine. It's so important to take this child back, and we provide recovery because for us this rescue mission, and it is not only to find and return, but recover this child and reintegrate, because many of these kids have been brainwashed. They've been brainwashed. They even did not know that Ukraine exists because they heard from Russian propaganda, from Russian families, from caregivers in orphanages that Ukraine not exist. Or if you will come back, Nazi will kill you.
Is there any contact during this process with Russian authorities in order to, organize this way back? How does it work if they're not in the Ukrainian territory?
We as the NGO will not relate with the
Government.
Yeah, it's
So
our
it's
government.
civil society.
Yeah, but Russia is aggressor. Russia is aggressor, which a goal is kidnap children, brainwash them, and weaponize them. And that's why very hard communicate with aggressor whose plan is this, just to take your kid. You know that we can only, if we find relatives or parents, we help them to reach a child with the old documents. But even with this, sometimes Russia send them or forcibly interrogate them, send them to have a DNA test or have a lie detection, just to convince that they have documents, but to be convinced that, oh, they are parents. And even in these circumstances, sometimes it's very hard to return child.
This disconnection with their country, do you believe that then this is the main reason to take these kids out of their country? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And I can tell you a lot of things about returning because it's very confidential. Yeah, it's confidential. For Russia, Save Ukraine NGO, it is terroristic organization because we are taking kids, Ukrainian kids, from occupied territories, and it's Russian. That's why, because many of them have been brainwashed, many of them have been kidnapped, and they don't want to give us our children back.
And what risks are those kids exposed when they are back to Ukraine? From your perspective.
Yeah, they could stop on the border, and they could kick them off. Yeah, and
they're witnesses as well.
Yes, the witnesses of war crimes. All these children know a lot about what happened, not only with them, but with other children. They can provide us with information about that kids who've been physically punished or who've been abused and who've been killed even, and how it happened, how they've been taken from their homes or from their schools to Crimea or to Russia, how they've been forced to receive Russian passports, because all these kids has Russian passports. We have now a boy, when he received a Russian birth certificate, he cut it for pieces and have been punished. They placed him to the solitary confinement for several times, and he been there 15 days. It is confinement, it's 2 meters with like a cage, with no food. It's a boy, it's 16 years boy, who lost the parents or relatives, whose grandmother died after Russians came to their village. Yeah, and he'd been taken by Russians, forcibly taken. Nobody asked him if he wants to go anywhere. They took him. It's kidnapping. And everything what Russia's doing in Ukraine, it's a genocide. Genocide, not only kidnapping kids, but genocide forcibly annihilating their identity. They want to erase their plan to erase Ukrainian identity and weaponize these kids. And thousands of young adults, after being kidnapped or after being in occupation in Russian school, on occupied territories or in Russia, now they are soldiers. These young Ukrainian children, who've been Ukrainian children 10 years ago, and after being occupied, they learn that they must fight against Americans, like in Soviet Union against Ukraine, because they learn from Russian propaganda that this is American army fighting, and Russia is a victim, and America is aggressor, Ukraine is aggressor. And these children learning this, they instill hatred towards United States, towards Ukraine, and these young adults fighting against aggression of United States. and dying there. These kids have been brainwashed and they're dying for nothing.
What is the structure of the NGO in Ukraine? An idea of how many volunteers work with you and all people there in different types of work?
We have 100 staff and several hundreds volunteers.
All of them Ukrainians or maybe foreigners as well?
No, only Ukrainians. And they're helping us in our programs because we have 7 Hope and Healing Centers recovery program. It's live
Healing centers, where they are?
In Kyiv and Kyiv region, in different territories. And it's special center for orphans, for families with children after reunification, or even for kids who've been sexually abused. It's a different programs. That's why we need support all time, and you can find us SaveUkraineUS.org in the internet, and you can help us to rescue these kids and provide recovery, because many of them have been brainwashed, and we have the programming program in our centers to recover them.
How many children or teenagers are being, are being part of those 7 healing centers that you just mentioned?
All kids.
Okay.
Yeah, all kids whom we return, not only from Russia occupied territories, but from combat zones too. We provide this 3 or 6 months living recovery program, and we provide them with food, accommodation, with art therapy, and
this is a long-term work, right?
It's very hard work. That's why we have professionals who every day and night, provide this support, because these traumas of these children very serious. And just one short story. It's one of the last stories when child told me that after kidnapping, he been in the facility and he was dreaming about his escape. And he was building a plan how he could escape, but only one thing stopped him: how to cross minefields. And this 12 years old boy was dreaming how to escape and planned how to cross minefields. And he told that together with his friend, they thought they planned to throw stones and step on that place, because if stone is not explode, they can step on that stones and cross these minefields. It's horrible. It's 12 years old boy. I have 4 kids. I cannot imagine if my child is dreaming his escape from enemy's facility and to cross minefields. That's why we have to help our kids return home, back home. We need them. And this war on children and women, Russians killing them, killing civilians. They want to grab our land, and they want to have us as slaves, and we want to live independently.
Let's talk about this trip that you were here in Washington D.C., capital of the United States. What motivated Save Ukraine to bring those teenagers here, and what is the main goal of this trip?
I've been in Washington before, and it is very hard to find. It's hard for me as adult who working every day to convince American that it is genocide. That's why it was so important to bring these kids here who experience these traumas, who can tell you their stories, who can express their feelings, what they had before. It is months they experience in Russian camps. They sung Russian anthem. They've been brainwashed, but they stand. But they plan to come back. But many children are staying there. They are decided to stay there, and it's not because it is good life in Russia, but because they've been brainwashed. Nobody can brainwash your child. Nobody can use your child as a weapon against any country. It is unnormal when anybody make your child the spoils of the war.
Mykola Kuleba, any message you'd like to give to our community of foreign journalists who are watching us through this educational program? Any message or how to reach the organization, the NGO, and get in touch? Anything you would like to add?
We are continuing our rescue missions. We are helping more kids to be rescued and recovered and integrated. And if you can help us, please provide support. SaveUkraineUS.org, our website, and you can be with us. You can help us to help more kids to be rescued and to live normal life, because nobody can hurt your child. We need to stop this horrible war and help all Ukrainian children to come back and be integrated in Ukrainian society.
Mykola Kuleba, Save Ukraine CEO, thank you so much for this
Thank
interview.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Так, мене звати Ksenia, мені 19 років.
Hello, my name is Ksenia and I'm 18 years old. I have a younger brother who is 12 now, and we are orphans. And we are from Kharkiv.
Мого брата відправили до літнього табору, ось, а мене відправили на навчання до Росії.
My brother was taken to the summer camp in Russia, and I was taken to studying also in Russia.
Ми знаходились там 9 місяців.
We've been there for 9 months.
Просто виконались, збирати речі, ось це вже було 31 серпня, от мене привезли на гуртожитку, ось, і все там і залишилося.
I was just told to pick up my stuff, and I was taken to some dormitory and then stayed there. I didn't want to go, but I had no choice, and I was so scared because I didn't know what was going to happen next.
Але найголовніше, що я відчувала на той момент, це саме за декілька днів до мого від'їзду забрали брата до табору, і я не знала, чи повернеться він взагалі назад.
My brother was taken several days before I was taken, so I thought about that I might never see my brother again, ever.
And now that you were reunited with your family and you're here in the United States, what is the main message you would like to give or say?
Я хочу нагадати, що в Україні не лише руйнують будинки, а й те, що руйнують наші сім'ї, і Росія вивозить дітей.
I want to remind the world that there is a war in Ukraine, is going on still, and Russia destroys not only our houses but our families and attacks our children.
Дуже багато дітей було вивезено, і, на жаль, лише тільки маленька частина цих дітей була повернена назад.
I'm so sad about the fact that there are lots of kids who are taken, and not many of them were returned.
Ще багато залишається там, і я дуже вірю, сподіваюся, що більшість або всі діти повернуться назад до України.
There are still many of kids Ukrainian kids in Russia, but I believe and I hope they will return to Ukraine someday.
Thank you so much.
Вітаю, мене звати Даяна, мені 15 років, я з міста Херсон.
Hello, I'm Diana. I'm 15 years old and I'm from Kherson City.
Мене, мого молодшого брата та молодшу сестру незаконно вивезли до табору в Крим на 2 тижні.
My younger sister and my younger brother, we were taken to the camp to Crimea. They told us that it would be 2 weeks.
Але ми пробули там півроку, і це були найгірші півроку в моєму житті.
But we spent there 6 months, and it was the worst 6 months in my life, in my entire life.
do you feel comfortable about sharing any memory from during this time?
Якісь яскраві моменти, яскраві враження. Давай про дерево.
Мабуть, коли ця поїздка до табору, вона була від школи, тобто відмовитися не можна було, бо коли ти живеш на окупованій території, тобі дуже страшно відмовлятися від чогось, бо прийдуть якісь великі дорослі воєнні і
I guess I remember that when we were offered to go to the camp, our parents were offered to go to the camp. It was the offer from the school teachers, from the director, and you had no choice to refuse. And we were scared. Some people, some militaries could come to our house and threaten us. So my parents agreed. Because when you live under occupation, under Russian authority, you are afraid of refusing. You have no choice. You just said to go, and that is it.
Спочатку було начебто добре, але коли ми їхали, було враження того, що щось не так, бо нас везли як якийсь секрет. Нам сказали повимикати телефони, вікна не дивитися, і це було незвично.
And also I remember that when we were driving to this camp, our shades in the bus were down, and we were told to turn off our phones. So it was suspicious. It was like they were hiding us from someone.
Коли ми приїхали до табору, відношення до нас було дуже жахливе.
And the attitude, when we came to the camp, the attitude to us was awful.
З нас хотіли зробити росіян, постійно нами маніпулювали, мого молодшого брата віддали в психлікарню за те, що він був незручною дитиною.
Because, for instance, it was the atmosphere of propaganda and manipulation, and my younger brother was taken to a hospital because of his active behavior. He was an uncomfortable child for them.
And now that you were here, the same question I've made to her, which message do you want to spread? I mean, what you name?
І так само, тепер ти тут, все добре, яке твоє послання світу і американцям про твій досвід? Що б ти хотіла сказати їм?
Я б нікому не побажала відчути прочувствувати це, що відбулося зі мною, з моєю сестрою та братом. І
це твоє послання, щоб ніхто більше це не переживав, правильно?
так.
I wish all the children in the world that they would never have such an experience as I and my younger brother and my sister had. I wish not any child has this experience.
Okay, thank you. And you?
Мене звати Денис, мені 18 років. Під час окупації мого міста Херсону мене проти моєї волі вивезли до Криму.
My name is Denis. I'm 18 years old now, and I'm also from Kherson City. And during Russian occupation, I was also taken to the camp to Crimea.
У таборі був наглядач, керівник безпеки Валерій Астахов, це колишній український поліцейський, він втік у 2014 році.
There was this man in the camp called Astahov. He was ex-policeman, Ukrainian ex-policeman, and he ran away from Ukraine after 2014.
У мене діабет, я підходив в пункті в таборі, сказав це, що мені треба докупити ліки. Мені сказали, що чекай, поки ліки не закінчаться повністю.
And I have diabetes, and I was ran out of my medicine, and I came to the doctors like in the camp and said that I need some medicine, but they responded that come when they completely be finished.
Через 2 дні до мене підходить Астахов та говорить, якщо я не підкорюсь Росії, то я помру в таборі.
And after that, in 2 days, this Astahov came to me and said me these words: if you won't be for Russia, if you are not be Russian, like you will die here.
У лютому 2023 року всіх студентів відправляли навчатися. не спитали, хочемо чи ми навчатися. Нас просто силою брали і відправляли.
And in February 2023, all students of my age were gathered and we were taken for studying. And they didn't ask us whether we want to be, we want to study on this profession or whether we want to go to this city, to this college.
Так я опинився в місті Керч у морському коледжі.
So that's how I ended up in Navy College in Kerch city, Crimea.
Okay. And how did you manage to leave the situation?
І як ти врятувався, як ти звідти вибрався?
Мені подзвонив друг, сказав, що є можливість повернутися додому з організацією Save Ukraine.
My friend called me and told me that there is an opportunity to leave this place with the volunteers of Save Ukraine.
You managed to reach the NGO?
І що коли друг тобі сказав, ти зміг зв'язатися з Save Ukraine?
Так, я з російського номеру позвонив на гарячу лінію.
Yeah, I had this Russian number, Russian SIM card, and I called to the hotline of Save Ukraine by myself.
What was his biggest fear by that time?
А який був твій найбільший страх в той час? Чого ти найбільше боявся в той
Я
час?
найбільше всього боявся те, що я можу залишитися ще там.
I was afraid that I would never go home and stay there forever.
And now that you were, do you feel safe now? You feel safe now?
Ти відчуваєш себе в безпеці зараз?
Зараз я відчуваю себе в безпеці.
Yeah, I do.
Thank you so much.
Дякую тобі дуже.
Вітаю, мене звати Єлизавета, мені 17 років, я з Херсону. Мене незаконно вивезли до України на відпочинок на 2 тижні.
Hi, my name is Елизавета. I'm 17 years old now. I also from Kherson City, and I also was taken to under guise of the arrest to Crimea for 2 weeks.
2 weeks. And was she in contact with her family? Was she with her family?
Чи ти підтримувала зв'язок зі своєю родиною в цей час?
На жаль, ні, тому що в мене був російський номер, а мама був український. Я ніяк не могла з нею підтримати зв'язок, і вона навіть не знала про це, що мене вивезли.
Unfortunately, no, because I had this Russian SIM card, and mother even didn't know that I was taken to the camp.
Потім я там пробула 2 місяці, після цього мене перевезли в інший табір лоджисти. Я пробула ще місяць, і в січні вивозили всіх дітей на навчання, та мене вивезли без моєї згоди на навчання до Геническа.
So I was at one camp for 2 months, then they moved me to another camp for 1 month more, and then I was taken to occupied city Geniches for studying also.
Де мене зробили сиротою і хотіла мені знайти приємну родину та зробити російський паспорт.
And there in Geniches they wanted to make me an orphan, and they began to look in for foster family for me, to leave me there.
Де до нас приїжджала Марія Львова-Білова, та ще з якимось чиновником пропонувала нам 100 000 рублів та квартиру за умови, що ми залишимось в Росії.
And Maria Lvova-Belova, the Russian children's ombudsman, went there, came to us there to this college, and she offered 100,000 rubles and a certificate, everything in order we stay in Russia.
How changed your destiny? There was not what happened.
Як вийшло так, що ти на все це не погодилась і змінила свою долю і приїхала назад?
Тому що коли мене вивезли, я хотіла додому все одно. Я та яка людина, яка ніколи не продасть свою рідну землю. Я та, яка чекала мати, на все про все, я чекала їхати, я знала, що вона до мене не повернеться. Ну, як не повернеться. Те, що на мене морально давили, я думала, що вона до мене не повернеться, але в мене в душі все одно була якась надія, що вона до мене повернеться і вона мене забере звідти.
So I was hoped to, all this time I was hoping to return home anyway, and there was a hope inside me that my mother would come for me anyway. But sometimes they all time they pressured on me to stay, and I even sometimes I doubt it, but I keep alive this hope that my mother would come for me.
That's how it happened. Her mother was able to
Твоя
go to where
мама
you were.
змогла і забрала тебе?
Так, через 4 місяці вона в травні місяці до мене приїхала.
Yes, in May 2023 she came for me there.
If she feels safe now.
Відчуваєш себе в безпеці зараз?
Так.
Yeah, I do.
Вітаю, мене звати Ростислав і мені 18 років.
Hello, my name is Rostislav and I'm 18 now.
Коли почалась війна, я на той момент залишився один.
When the full-scale, he's from Kherson region, and when the full-scale invasion began, he was all alone in his house. Поясню чому.
Коли почалась війна, мене бабуся померла.
Because my grandma died.
Потім в мене ще була мама, але вона хворіла.
I had a mother, but she was mentally sick.
У неї було психічне захворювання.
She has mental sick like for all her life.
Коли бабуся померла, на наступний день її просто взяли і вивезли в якусь лікарню.
And after my grandma died, next day Russians came and took my mother to some hospital.
Потім я був переміщений до Херсону.
And then як?
Приїхали росіяни зі зброєю і почали мені погрожувати.
And then a Russian military came to my house with weapon and threatened me, and I was taken to Kherson.
І вони сказали, якщо я не поїду, то вони мене відвезуть невідомо куди, в якийсь інтернат.
And they said that if I wouldn't come, they took me to some institution elsewhere.
В Херсоні пробув місяць, потім я був незаконно переміщений до Криму.
Then I was taken to Crimea, to the camps also.
And how long have you stayed there?
І скільки ти пробув в таборах цих в Криму?
В таборі я
Приблизно.
пробув тут 3,5 місяці.
Це перед Керчью.
Так.
Something about 3.5 months in the camps.
Do you have an idea of how many teenagers were with you in this camp?
Чи ти не пам'ятаєш, скільки приблизно дітей, підлітків було в тих таборах от з тобою одночасно?
В таборі було дітей багато.
He doesn't remember the number, but it's a lot. He says it's a lot.
Десь дітей 600-700.
Like probably 600 or 700
700.
children.
How was his routine there? How was he treated?
Як з тобою поводилися в таборі? Що ти там робив?
Там умовляли співати гімн, а якщо ти цього не робив, то тебе просто карали.
Як карали там? Розказуй.
Тебе саджали, перший раз ти писав доповідну, наступний раз з тобою розмовляв Остапко, а на третій раз тебе просто саджали в ізолятор.
Тебе саджали в ізолятор?
Так.
We must sing the Russian anthem every day, and I refused. But when you refuse for the first time, you must write an explanation of paper why you don't want to sing this anthem. And if you refuse for the second time, this Astapov, this policeman, came to you and took you to some room for a private conversation. And if you refuse for the third time, they put you in some isolated room, like some isolated small room.
And how did you manage to escape or to leave the situation or get in touch with the NGO?
Як ти вибрався, як ти повернувся додому? He also was taken to Kerch after camps. So he was escaped from there.
From
also,
there.
Like Dennis. Yes. So як ти вибрався додому?
Я звідти втік.
I just escaped from Kerch city.
Are you able to analyze the impact that would happen with you? The impact that this had in your life? Have you, if he's able to process everything that happened, or if he's still shaken about everything that happened?
Як весь цей досвід вплинув на тебе, на твоє життя? І чи ти зараз в порядку, чи досі, наприклад, щось з тих спогадів змушує тебе боятися?
Ні, зараз у мене все добре.
I'm fine now. It's a hard question.
What do you expect from the future?
А що ти очікуєш від майбутнього? Що буде, як ти думаєш, що буде в тебе в майбутньому? Що ти хочеш, щоб було в тебе в майбутньому?
Щоб я став якимось фотографом.
I wanna become a photographer.
What do you want to photograph?
А що б ти фотографував? Що ти хочеш фотографувати? Що тобі подобається
Мені
фотографувати?
подобається фотографувати природу і людей.
I
Більше
like-
природу.
I like to take pictures of nature and people, but mostly nature.
Okay, thank you so much.
Дякую тобі дуже.